Well, you probably know by now, if you have watched for very long at all, that I kind of thrive on that saying, variety is the spice of life. That's partly why I like doing carriage work, because I get to do regular woodworking, abnormal woodworking like steam bending, and I do some upholstery, do some painting, some striping, some lettering, metalworking, machine working, blacksmithing. It's just something that kind of piques my interest and keeps me going. So I don't fight boredom very well. So I'm going to try something a little different. Like I say, variety is the spice of life. I have been brought a project that was supposed to go through my planer, but it might be just a hair big for my planer. So I'm going to try a different option. These two big planks have been brought to me. They are 3 inches thick, give or take. They aren't exactly flat because they have been sawn out by hand with a chainsaw, and we have some imperfections. That'd be kind of polite maybe. But I have 2 of them that need to be planed down and cleaned up so that they can be made into one ginormous park bench seat. One will be the base and the other will be the back. So, question is, how am I going to do it? And I've been kind of milling this over, and we'll see. This one here might be the biggest challenge. As I kind of turn it on edge, you can maybe see we have some curves to it. We come down this direction, then we come up this direction. So that's going to be a challenge. And at the top here, we are at 20 and a half, 20 maybe. I have a 20-inch planer, and it's going to be nip and tuck. This one, however, is bigger yet. If I measure the width right here, we're at 21. So that won't fit through my planer, and the question was, do I shave part of it down to make it fit? Well, I'm going to try to save it. Well, those big old planks are 9 feet 2 inches, and I have 2 1-inch oak boards here that I cut to 9 foot 10. I'm going to run them through the planer and make sure they are flat. Oh, I have an axle here in the way. This is the front axle off of one of the Yellowstone Park coaches that we built in the 80s. They run in Yellowstone, and they broke a spindle off. The front wheel came off. I bet they had a wreck there, but they'd like me to make 3 more of these in my spare time. Well, this doesn't sit exactly flat. You can see I've got a little rock to it. If I measure that, I have about 1/4 of an inch. So I have some 1/8 inch shims here. I'm going to split the difference and shim this side up 1/8 of an inch and the opposite corner 1/8 of an inch. And that should hold us pretty close to level. I'm going to put an 1/8 inch on this end. Not quite there. I might add just one more here. There'll be 1/4 of an inch there. That's going to be pretty decent. Check this end. We're pretty stable. So as I check my clearances, I'm 1/8 inch here, 1/2 inch here, 3/4 of an inch there, 1/2 inch there, and you start climbing to this end. And right there we start to touch, about 4 inches from the end. So I'm going to actually take this end and add another 1/4 of an inch or so and just elevate this end up and recheck. I have an 1 3/4 inch piece underneath. I'm going to increase that to a 2 inch. That'll increase the height on this end. Putting the shim back in there. We're touching on this side. Actually, we're high here, so this will come off. We're actually touching right there. So I've got my router bit about 1/8 of an inch down. I'll run that across and check for any high spots. Well, the thing about taking off the high spots is it'll cut the depth of my router bit, but then the high spots wants to ride on my plate that I'm floating it with. So it takes multiple times to go back across to finally get it relieved enough to where my platform is working just on my frame and the router bit is free. But I think we finally got this high spot off to where I'm just going to keep working it down and catch the high spots. But I think it's going to work really well. Well, we're pretty good, except a little spot here, and it's just a hair. I'm debating on leaving that just for personality. Just a reminder that this was hand sawn out with a chainsaw. It's just deep enough that you can kind of feel it, but it's more color than anything. I'm going to see what a little sanding will do. This is kind of all about rustic. So the official opinion is here. What do you think?
I think you should take it out.
Wouldn't take much.
Okay.
But there you have it. I guess I take it out. Well, there you go. Just like new. I missed a little spot right there. That looks nice. Well, this side is a little bit rougher. We have a pretty deep cut here. That's probably a 1/2 of an inch. And we're real deep up here. We have some saw tracks here that are pretty deep. We're 3/8 of an inch here. Got a real deep cut here. So I'm not sure we're going to get it all out of this side without sacrificing a lot of depth in this board. As I straight edge across this side, we're 1/2 to 5/8 here maybe. And since we planed the other side flat, we're actually really flat on our base. Come up a little closer to the middle. We're 1.25 inches there. 1 1/8 there. And we're 5/8. 1 1/8 there. So this end I had kind of propped up on the other side, and that's the advantage doing it this way. I don't have to run it through the planer and have it exact thickness. I can prop this side up as well, and even though we'll end up with a taper through the board, we can try to minimize how much we have to take off. I don't know that I'm going to get to the center on this one at all though. That's going to be better. Well, this actually ended up a little better than I anticipated. It's fallen off on this side, but I have contact through the whole thing. I'm right at 2 inches. Maybe 2 1/8, just right there. I didn't think I'd touch the center, and it actually did make contact. I got a couple deep spots here. The one on this end that I thought was so deep did come out because this end ended up being 2 1/2 inches, so I was able to elevate it just a bit, and that helped float this whole thing out. So the question is what to do. Well, I've put a text in to my brother-in-law that actually owns this and see what he thinks. I kind of anticipate that he's going to stay at the 2 inches. I'll know that yet here pretty soon. But this would be the backrest, and it cleaned up really nice. So I really could see this being the back side being presentable. The big part of this is just the heft of this is what we want to keep. So I'm a little hesitant to go much thinner. Make a whale of a park bench seat, huh? So that's one way to plane a board that is too big for my planer. I think it turned out pretty well. Takes a lot of time, but it's a nice straight flat board from being initially cut out with a chainsaw. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.